In late 2018, a scandal rocked the automotive world. Nissan's legendary chairman, Carlos Ghosn, the executive who once saved the company from bankruptcy, was arrested in Japan on charges of financial misconduct. The alliance he forged between Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi was suddenly in jeopardy. By the time Ghosn dramatically skipped bail and fled the country in 2019, Nissan was spiraling. Profits had plunged, leadership was in chaos, and a proud automaker found itself on the brink of crisis. This is the story of how Nissan fell into disarray, and how it's now attempting a daring corporate comeback under a plan called Nissan Next and Beyond. To understand Nissan's predicament, we must start with the fall. Just a decade ago, Nissan was riding high as an innovator. It was one of the first to mass-produce an electric vehicle, the Leaf, in 2010. And under Ghosn's aggressive expansion, Nissan's global sales hit a peak of 5.8 million vehicles in 2017. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Ghosn's Power 88 plan, targeting 8% global market share and 8% profit margins, led to relentless pursuit of volume at any cost. In the US, Nissan flooded rental fleets and lured buyers with heavy discounts, tactics that boosted short-term sales but eroded brand value and profit per car. By 2017, North American profit margins were already tumbling under the weight of these incentives. Then came the implosion. Ghosn's arrest in November 2018 not only ousted the architect of the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, it plunged Nissan into leadership turmoil. His successors struggled to steady the ship. As one insider later noted, most of Nissan's collapse occurred after Ghosn's ouster. In 2019, Nissan reported a staggering net loss of 671 billion yen, the worst in its history. The company that once earned a reputation for efficient turnarounds was bleeding red ink. Nissan's share price went into freefall, losing over 70% of its value and roughly $20 billion in market capitalization in the years following Ghosn's departure. Global sales plummeted more than 40%, from that 5.8 million peak in fiscal year 2017 to around 3.4 million by fiscal year 2024. Once the EV pioneer, Nissan had fallen out of the world's top 20 electric vehicle makers, a humbling descent for the brand that brought us the Leaf. The decline was felt in every major market. In the United States, Nissan's largest market, sales collapsed from 1.6 million vehicles in 2017 to under 730,000 by 2022. Market share shrank from a competitive 9.2% to barely 5.9%. In Europe, Nissan's share hit its lowest point in over 30 years, around 2%, after unit sales there halved. And in China, the world's biggest car market, Nissan's sales fell by more than half, from 1.5 million to under 700,000, as its market share eroded to a meager 2.8%. In the span of a few years, Nissan went from a global growth story to what one analyst bluntly termed a one-market company, dependent on the US. Even at home in Japan, where its share held around 10%, Nissan was grappling with an aging lineup and declining domestic demand. Equally damaging was the brand dilution that had occurred. Under Ghosn's volume-first strategy, Nissan had stretched itself thin with too many models and razor-thin margins. By 2019, key products were woefully outdated. For example, the Nissan Frontier pickup and 370Z sports car in the US hadn't seen major redesigns in over a decade. The once-renowned Altima sedan was struggling to stand out in a crowded market. Nissan's identity had blurred. Known for neither class-leading quality nor cutting-edge innovation, the brand risked becoming synonymous only with deep discounts. As the CEO who followed Ghosn, Makoto Uchida, later admitted, Nissan had fallen into a malaise that urgently needed fixing. In the aftermath of the Ghosn scandal, internal discord further hampered Nissan. The Franco-Japanese alliance, once a source of strength, became strained. Nissan executives bristled at what they saw as lopsided French control. Renault still owned 43% of Nissan and effectively dominated the partnership. Tensions peaked when Renault pushed for a full merger in 2019, which Nissan's board rebuffed. Trust between the two partners was badly frayed just when Nissan needed stability the most. Meanwhile, new competition was surging. Tesla and BYD raced ahead in EV development, seizing the lead that Nissan had squandered. Traditional rivals like Toyota and Honda doubled down on hybrids and new tech, areas where Nissan was caught flat-footed. In the US, Nissan also lost ground in profitable segments like trucks and premium SUVs, as domestic automakers and upstarts took share. By 2020, the picture was grim. Nissan's Uchida, who took over as CEO in late 2019, bluntly told the press he'd resign if he couldn't turn the company around. Extreme measures were needed. Nissan began slashing costs, closing plants, and cutting models. In 2019, it announced 12,500 job cuts. By 2025, that number had ballooned to 20,000, roughly 15% of its workforce. 7 factories worldwide are slated to close by 2027 under these restructuring efforts. Nissan's global production capacity will be trimmed by about 20% to better match its shrunken sales. The company even considered a bold $60 billion merger with Honda in a bid for survival, talks that fell apart when Honda proposed making Nissan a subsidiary. In mid-2025, at Nissan's stormy shareholder meeting, frustrated investors handed management a blunt verdict. They demanded accountability for the deepening crisis, noting Nissan had suspended dividends and racked up a $4.5 billion net loss in the latest year. One veteran auto analyst openly pondered if bankruptcy was inevitable if things didn't improve. Such was the state of Nissan in ashes, a company with a tarnished reputation, vanishing profits, and a fading presence on the world stage. Yet amid the wreckage, Nissan's leadership insisted it could still be saved. They crafted a plan, Nissan Next, as a 4-year roadmap to pull the automaker out of its nosedive by fiscal 2023. As that initial plan ran its course, Nissan rolled out an updated vision often dubbed Nissan Next Beyond. The aim: go beyond mere survival and spark a true revival. It wouldn't be easy, but Nissan had one advantage: a rich history of comebacks. This is, after all, the company Gons resuscitated from near death in 1999 by daring to cut 21,000 jobs and overhaul everything. The question was, could Nissan do it again, this time without its fallen savior? Nissan's recovery blueprint has 3 major pillars: restructuring the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, revitalizing Nissan's brand identity with fresh designs and products, and betting big on next-generation battery technology. Each of these is crucial to the automaker's long-term strategy. Let's break them down. First, the alliance. By 2022, it was clear that the old Renault-Nissan power dynamic was hindering progress. Nissan executives resented being a junior partner to Renault, even though Nissan was larger by sales. As one Nissan COO quipped, the alliance had become too focused on synergies and global volumes rather than real value creation. Under Makoto Uchida's watch, Nissan pushed to rebalance this relationship. After months of tense negotiations, a breakthrough came in early 2023. In February 2023, Nissan and Renault announced a sweeping alliance reboot. The French automaker agreed to drastically reduce its 43% stake in Nissan, bringing it down to 15%, equal to Nissan's own stake in Renault. This step, placing the two on a more equal footing, was aimed at ending years of friction and lopsided governance. For Nissan, it was a symbolic liberation. No longer would Renault hold disproportionate sway over Nissan's decisions. In exchange, Nissan would invest in Renault's future, specifically in Renault's new EV venture. Nissan agreed to take up to a 15% stake in Ampere, Renault's planned electric vehicle and software spin-off, potentially committing around $500 to $750 million for that slice. Mitsubishi Motors, the third partner, was invited to invest in Ampere as well, further binding the alliance's electric strategies together. This alliance revamp was about more than stocks and shares. It set a new framework for cooperation. Going forward, the companies will share technology more fluidly. Everything from common EV platforms to electronics, and even all solid-state batteries. More on that soon. They mapped out joint projects in key regions, co-developing cars for Europe, India, and Latin America, where pooling resources makes sense. A prime example is the next Nissan Micra for Europe. The Micra is an iconic Nissan subcompact, and instead of going it alone, Nissan is leveraging the alliance. The upcoming Micra EV will be engineered on Renault's new CMF-B EV architecture, the same as the Renault 5, and built at Renault's plant in Douai, France, but it will be distinctly Nissan in character. In fact, Nissan's London design studio styled the Micra's body, ensuring every single exterior panel is unique to Nissan. The result is a tight alliance integration: French bones, Japanese soul. Renault gets economies of scale for its platform. Nissan gets a fresh product for European customers without bearing the full development cost. The all-new Nissan Micra EV, shown here in concept form, is a product of the renewed alliance. Based on a Renault platform but styled by Nissan, it packs a 40 to 52 kilowatt-hour battery and a claimed 400-kilometer range in top spec. Nissan describes the Micra's look as audacious and hopes its retro-chic design, complete with smiling circular LED accents, will inject some fun back into the brand. Alliance 2.0 is also about focus. In the past, Nissan and Renault sometimes tripped over each other in the same markets. Now, the strategy is to let each lead where it's strongest. For example, Nissan leads in North America and Japan, Renault in Europe, etc. The companies even floated a leader-follower approach. Whichever partner has an edge in a given tech, say autonomous driving or a particular region, takes charge for the group. Luca De Meo, Renault's CEO, praised the new setup, saying it lets Renault regain strategic agility without breaking the partnership's existing synergies. In plainer terms, each company can make decisions more like a normal company, rather than being handcuffed by the other, while still sharing what really counts, like expensive EV R&D. This delicate balance, looser in governance, tighter in tech, is the foundation of Nissan's comeback plan. The rationale is compelling. If the alliance can stop infighting and start innovating together again, all three members stand a better chance in the brutally competitive auto industry. By mid-2025, the new alliance structure was taking hold. On paper, Renault had transferred a chunk of its Nissan shares into a trust and agreed to orderly sell-downs over time. Nissan, for its part, had engineers working with Renault's Ampere team on future battery electric models for Europe. Even Mitsubishi, the smallest partner, committed to sharing in the development of European EVs based on Ampere's platforms. The Alliance's Ampere hub in Douai is now gearing up to produce 6 different electric models across 4 brands: Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Alpine, by 2025. This includes Nissan's Micra EV and Mitsubishi's first European EV, a rebadged Renault SUV. All of this signals a dramatic turnaround from the alliance's darkest days. Where once there was distrust and inertia, there is now a cautiously cooperative push into the electric future. Nissan's bet is that a healthier alliance will provide the economies of scale and shared innovation it needs to claw its way back to competitiveness. The next pillar of Nissan's recovery is revitalizing its brand and product lineup. After years of stagnation, Nissan is in the midst of an aggressive product offensive, combined with a new design philosophy to rekindle consumer interest. The company essentially asked itself, what does Nissan stand for in the EV era, and how do we make people care about our cars again? 2 answers emerged: evoke Nissan's heritage where it counts, and embrace a bold new design language for the future. On the heritage front, Nissan gave fans something they'd been clamoring for: the return of the Nissan Z. In 2022, Nissan launched the new Z, also known as the Fairlady Z in Japan, a classic 2-seat sports car revamped for modern times. It was a nod to Nissan's performance legacy. The Z lineage dates back to the famed 240Z of 1969, and a signal that Nissan hadn't abandoned driving excitement. The new Z's styling was unabashedly retro-modern, with a long hood and LED headlamps that echo the 240Z's curves, and a twin-turbo V6 under the hood, delivering 400 horsepower. Critics noted the Z wasn't cutting-edge in tech or interior, but the emotional response was undeniable. Nissan is fun again, enthused enthusiasts on forums and social media. Within days of its unveil, the Z's proto-spec launch edition sold out, and dealers had waitlists for this halo car. While the Z will only sell in the tens of thousands, its value to Nissan is in brand mojo. It's the kind of car that gets people talking positively about Nissan for a change. It showed that amid the focus on cost-cutting, Nissan remembered the importance of passion in its lineup. At the same time, Nissan addressed the opposite end of the spectrum, mass-market crossovers and EVs, with a fresh approach to design. Enter the Nissan Ariya. Launched in 2022, the Ariya is a fully electric crossover SUV, roughly the size of the popular Rogue/X-Trail. It's hard to overstate how important the Ariya is for Nissan's image. This is the company's first all-new EV since the Leaf, which first came out in 2010, and it's positioned as a high-tech flagship for mainstream buyers. Nissan's design team created an entirely new visual identity for the Ariya, one they dub timeless Japanese futurism. What does that mean in practice? In the Ariya's case, it means a sleek, minimalist shape with a distinctive front shield, replacing a traditional grille, emblazoned with an illuminated Nissan logo and subtle Japanese motifs in textures and lighting. The interior feels like a modern lounge, with a clean horizontal dashboard, touch-sensitive controls that only light up when the car is on, and harmonious use of colors and materials. A reviewer from Ward's Auto described the Ariya's cabin as futuristic, like a sleek Starship cafe, praising it as a very distinct and original look that avoids the cookie-cutter tech minimalism of many EVs. Even longtime skeptics admitted Nissan had nailed a new vibe, elegant, high-tech, and warmly Japanese. With the Ariya, Nissan has created a new eye-catching design language and personality worthy of attention, Ward's Auto declared in 2023. In other words, Nissan finally has a design identity it can call its own, one that doesn't feel derivative or outdated. This design renaissance is now spreading across Nissan's lineup. The company's design chief, Alfonso Albaisa, has woven Japanese aesthetic concepts like Iki, chic simplicity, and mastery of empty space, into global models to create a consistent brand feel. The updated corporate logo, a flat, two-dimensional take on the classic Nissan circle, debuted on the Ariya and symbolizes the cleaner, forward-looking Nissan. Upcoming models will carry signature elements first seen on the Ariya and recent concept cars. Thin, blade-like LED lighting, a so-called shield nose on EVs, and smooth surfaces punctuated by bold arcs or scoops for character. Crucially, this isn't just theory. New production models are embodying the change. In May 2025, Nissan pulled the wraps off the all-new Micra EV, set for launch in Europe in late 2025. The design turned heads because it successfully plays on nostalgia and modernity. Roughly based on the shape of the coming Renault 5, the Micra EV sports a boxy hatchback silhouette, but Nissan's team gave it an adorable face all its own. It has round LED daytime running lights that wink at you, literally. They have a welcome animation that makes the car appear to wink when unlocked. The main headlights are slim rectangles set within those circles, a playful contrast. Reviewers immediately drew comparisons to a classic Mini Cooper in its friendly front-end vibe, though with a futuristic twist. Nissan calls the Micra's look audacious, a word they used 6 times in the press release, aiming to give a jolt of character to a segment often dismissed as boring econoboxes. Inside, the Micra EV largely inherits the Renault 5's modern dashboard, dual 10-inch screens, etc. But Nissan added touches like a little Mount Fuji graphic in the center console in place of Renault's logo. It's branding by detail. Small cues remind you this is a Nissan, and a Japanese one at that. The Micra EV will come with 2 battery options, around 40 kWh and 52 kWh, for up to 400 kilometers of range, making it a practical city car with enough range for weekend trips. More importantly, it shows Nissan injecting personality back into its small cars, something that had been lacking. Nissan is also revamping its once trailblazing crossover, the Juke, as an EV. The Juke was a hit in the early 2010s for its quirky design, and Nissan wants to recapture that magic. A Juke EV is planned for 2026, and Nissan hints it will be the boldest-looking Juke yet, inspired by the angular, hyper-punk concept car shown in 2023. That concept was all sharp lines and polygonal surfaces, like a hatchback crossed with a stealth fighter. Expect the Juke EV to dial up the drama compared to the relatively smooth Ariya and Micra. Nissan knows that standing out in the EV crowd can be half the battle. Behind these headline-grabbing models, Nissan is executing a broader lineup renewal. In fact, The company announced it will launch 30 new models globally by March 2027. That's roughly a new vehicle every 6 weeks on average. Many of these are refreshes of existing nameplates, but the scale is massive. By that date, Nissan says it will have updated or replaced 80% plus of its range. Of those 30 new models, 16 will be electrified, either hybrid or pure electric, including 8 full battery EVs and 4 plug-in hybrids. In Nissan's key markets, this means big changes: North America, US and Canada. Nissan plans 7 new models here in the next few years, revamping 78% of its passenger vehicle lineup. This includes bringing its unique e-Power hybrid system to America for the first time, and even some plug-in hybrids. Long-running models like the Altima sedan and Armada SUV are due for overhauls, and there's buzz about an all-new electric sedan to replace the Maxima. Infiniti, Nissan's luxury brand, is also slated for new product, a crucial step since Infiniti had languished with an aging portfolio. China. Recognizing it has major ground to regain in China, Nissan is preparing 8 new energy vehicles for that market, a term that covers EVs and hybrids, with 4 of them under the Nissan brand itself. This will include EV versions of popular Chinese market Nissan sedans and SUVs, and perhaps collaborations with local partner Dongfeng. China's rapid electrification and the onslaught of domestic EV startups have blindsided Nissan. One reason analysts warn Nissan might even have to retreat if it can't compete. To avoid that, Nissan is investing in China-specific technologies, for example, more affordable EV models and advanced driver aids favored by Chinese buyers. The Sylphy EV sedan and an upcoming electric small SUV are part of this effort, and Nissan has even hinted it could bring in ultra-low-cost EVs via its alliance. Renault's Dacia Spring EV tech could be one route. Europe. Beyond the Micra and Juke EVs already discussed, Nissan plans 6 new models in Europe. Some will be electrified versions of crossovers. Expect a hybrid Qashqai/Rogue Sport, for instance. And Nissan has confirmed a new electric crossover larger than the Ariya is coming too. Essentially Nissan's version of the Renault-developed electric SUV, sometimes referred to as the next X-Trail EV. Nissan's presence in Europe dwindled after it stopped building cars in England like the Micra and Infiniti models. But with alliance factories like Douai ramping up, Nissan can piggyback on Renault's infrastructure to reintroduce competitive models. The goal is to hold on to niches where Nissan is strong, like crossovers, and leverage EVs to meet Europe's stringent emissions rules. What ties all these products together is a clearer brand identity. Nissan's marketing under the Nissan Next initiative emphasized Nissan-ness, focusing on attributes like advanced safety. Nissan's ProPilot driver assist is being expanded. The company's heritage of sporty performance, hence the Z and GTR continuations, and its early adopter status in EVs, reminding people that Nissan was electrifying a decade before most. Even the dealerships are seeing changes. A new Nissan retail experience is rolling out, with minimalist, tech-focused showrooms echoing the Ariya's interior style. The idea is that when you step into a Nissan store or a new Nissan car, you feel a consistent, modern Japanese character. The third pillar of Nissan's plan might be the most daring, a technological bet on regaining the lead in battery innovation. In short, Nissan is going all in on all-solid-state batteries, ASSBs, as its trump card for the EV era. These next-gen batteries, still in development, replace the liquid electrolyte in a typical lithium-ion cell with a solid material. The potential benefits are huge: higher energy density, faster charging, improved safety, and lower cost at scale. Nissan believes ASSBs could be a game-changer that lets its future EVs leapfrog those of competitors. This isn't just talk. Nissan has a concrete timeline. The company built a dedicated pilot production line for solid-state batteries at its Yokohama plant and gave media a sneak peek in April 2024. The plan is to begin prototype production by March 2025, then steadily ramp up to full-scale manufacturing by fiscal year 2028. By early 2029, Nissan aims to be producing ASSB packs at scale for next-gen electric vehicles. If all goes well, the first Nissan EV with a solid-state battery could hit the market around 2028 to 2029. In fact, Nissan has already teased one: an electric 3-row SUV, think a future electric Pathfinder or Armada, that would use a solid-state battery to achieve 50% greater energy density than the Aria and a 50% reduction in fast charging time. In practical terms, such a vehicle might charge to 80% in, say, 15 minutes instead of 30, and go much farther on a charge than today's EVs, all while costing about the same as a gasoline counterpart. That's the dream outcome. Nissan's R&D teams have been working on solid-state chemistry for years, even as the company lagged in rolling out current lithium-ion models. The payoffs they cite are impressive. All solid-state batteries could triple charging speeds and double energy density, while cutting battery costs by half compared to today's tech. Imagine an electric car that charges in 10 minutes, has 600+ miles of range, and is cheaper to produce. That's the holy grail Nissan is chasing. They're not alone in this. Toyota, BMW and others are also deep in ASSB research. But Nissan was one of the earliest majors to commit publicly to a timeline. In April 2024, Reuters noted Nissan expects to have its first production solid-state battery ready by March 2025 for testing, and then ramp up a pilot output of 100 megawatt-hours per year by 2028, which equates to batteries for roughly 1,000 long-range EVs annually as a start. Nissan's bold Hyperforce concept, unveiled at the Japan Mobility Show 2023, incorporates an all-solid-state battery powering a 1,000-kilowatt dual-motor drivetrain, emblazoned right on its sidewalls. 1,000 kilowatts, ASSBE40RCE. This high-performance EV concept hints at Nissan's solid-state ambitions, promising lightning-fast charging and over 1,300 horsepower. It's a futuristic tribute to the GTR, complete with a blurred front badge that many suspect hides the famed GTR logo. For Nissan, ASSBs are not just about faster cars. They are about catching up and surpassing rivals in the core technology that will define the next generation of vehicles. The Leaf gave Nissan an early EV lead that it squandered. Solid-state batteries are a chance to reclaim leadership. As evidence of its seriousness, Nissan has been partnering with external tech firms, for example, working with a startup called LiCap on electrode materials and with universities on solid electrolyte research. The company also touts its ability to produce its own battery cells in-house, which could become a competitive advantage if solid-state tech pans out. Building batteries internally can reduce costs and secure supply, something Tesla famously did with its gigafactories, but most Japanese automakers have left to suppliers. Nissan's approach is more vertically integrated in this regard, likely stemming from painful lessons during recent chip and battery shortages. Of course, solid-state batteries are a high-risk, high-reward play. The technology, while demonstrated in labs, has yet to be mass-produced reliably. Issues like the tendency for lithium metal anodes to form dendrites, which can short out cells, have kept ASSBs from prime time so far. Nissan appears confident it can solve these issues by the late 2020s, aligning with or slightly trailing Toyota's similar 2027 to 2028 timeline for its first solid-state EV. If they succeed, Nissan's 2030-era EVs could boast features competitors can't easily match, such as much lighter battery packs and the ability to handle repeated fast charges with minimal degradation. That could make owning an EV more convenient and cheaper, boosting consumer appeal.